Whenever the economy stumbles, a lot of people in Washington argue that government spending should be increased in order to inject money into the economy. In this Center for Freedom and Prosperity video, we're going to look at whether this policy makes sense. I'm Dan Mitchell of the Cato Institute, and we're discussing this issue because government is big now, and there's a lot of agitation to make it even bigger, ostensibly to improve growth. First, some background. During the 1930s, America was suffering from a deep downturn. An economist named John Maynard Keynes argued that the economy could be boosted if the government borrowed money and spent it. According to this approach, which is now known as Keynesianism, this new spending would put money in people's pockets, and the recipients of the funds would then spend the money. This would, according to the theory, prime the pump as the money began circulating through the economy. The Keynesians also said that some tax cuts, particularly lump sum rebates, could have the same impact since the purpose is to have the government borrow and somehow put money in the hands of people who will spend it. So is this the right recipe to boost a flagging economy? Let's first look at whether Keynesianism makes sense from a theoretical perspective and then look at the real-world evidence. Keynesian theory sounds good, and it would be nice if it made sense, but it has a rather glaring logical fallacy. It overlooks the fact that, in the real world, government can't inject money into the economy without first taking money out of the economy. More specifically, the theory only looks at one half of the equation, the part where government puts money in the economy's right pocket. But where does the government get that money? It borrows it, which means it comes out of the economy's left pocket. There is no increase in what Keynesians refer to as aggregate demand. Keynesianism doesn't boost national income, it merely redistributes it. The pie is sliced differently, but it's not any bigger. The people who lend the money to government generally are not the same people who get money in their pockets because of the new spending or tax rebates, but that's not important. The Keynesian theory is based on the notion that there will be an increase in overall available cash. Yet that clearly is not the case. Some advocates of this theory get a bit more creative and say that Keynesianism works because it increases consumer spending rather than the money sitting idle. But money that is unspent by consumers does not sit idle. It winds up in the banking system someplace and is used to finance investment spending. The really clever Keynesians then respond by saying people won't lend and borrow in a weak economy. But in that type of dismal economic environment, people are so fearful that they try to increase their savings, so the bulk of any so-called stimulus winds up in the banking system anyway. Before shifting from theory to evidence, we should quickly note that government could finance stimulus spending by printing money rather than borrowing. Thankfully, that option doesn't seem to be on the table, since almost all politicians now realize that it would be foolish to mimic the disastrous inflationary policies